Good morning. Okay, so yesterday we learned how to solve one-step equations. So you can see that this is called equations part 2. So we're going to focus today on only solving addition and subtraction equations. But instead of just whole numbers, we're going to have some decimals and fractions in our equations. So all rules from yesterday still apply. Let's review. So numbers 1 and 2 are exactly what we did yesterday. So the first thing you want to do is draw your mirror. That's just a visual reminder to yourself that anything you do to the left side, you have to do to the right side. If you see plus 14, so this is asking what number plus 14 equals 31. Remember, we're going to solve by doing the inverse operation, and the inverse of addition is subtraction. So we're going to subtract 14 from both sides. Next, you're going to show your cancellation. 14 minus 14 is 0, so your 14s cancel. On the left side, all you have is your y, and 31 minus 14 is 17, and you put a box around your answer. The next thing you do is you rewrite this original equation, but you use substitution. So we're going to take our solution for y, which is 17 plus 14 equal to 31? Yes, 31 equals 31, check. Remember that every line of solving a one-step equation, every problem of solving a one-step equation should have 4 lines. So the first line is showing your inverse operation. Your second line, you box your solution. The third line is substitution, and the fourth line is your check. Inverse operation, solution, substitute, check. All right, so let's try this one. So first, you're going to draw your mirror. What number minus 33 equals 72? Since this says minus 33, the inverse of subtraction is addition. So to get the m all by itself, we have to get rid of negative 33. We get rid of negative 33 by adding 33. Now you're going to show your cancellation. Negative 33 plus 33 equals 0. So all we have left over here is m. And on the right side, 3 plus 2 is 5, and 7 plus 3 is 10. So m equals 105. So remember 4 lines. Inverse operation, solution, substitution is the next line. Substitution is when you rewrite this equation, but you substitute for m. So if I think that m equals 105, is 105 minus 33 equal to 72? Now remember, yesterday I said if you have a 3-digit number, a fraction, or a decimal, you have to show your work out to the side. So I'm going to slide over here and show my math for 105 minus 33, and that equals 72. So now I can say 72 equals 72, check. And always count and make sure you have your 4 lines. All right, so what if this happens? We're going to do the exact same thing. First, I'm going to draw my mirror. So this equation is asking what number plus 2 3/10 equals 41. Well, the opposite of adding 2 3/10 is subtracting 2 3/10. If I subtract 2 3/10 from the left, I have to subtract 2 3/10 from the right. 2 3/10 minus 2 3/10 cancels. So over here I have n. Remember, my rule is if you have a 3-digit number, a decimal, or a fraction, you have to show your work out to the side. So since I'm subtracting a decimal from a whole number, I'm going to slide over here, line them up, line up those decimals. We're going to call that 41 0/10 minus 2 3/10. That decimal drops straight down. I'm going to borrow. 10 minus 3 is 7, and 40 minus 2 is 38. So I think n equals 38 7/10. I think that's my solution. So the next one is called substitution. we're going to rewrite this equation, but instead of n, I'm going to use my solution. Is 38 7/10 plus 2 3/10 equal to 41? If you have a 3-digit number, a decimal, or a fraction, you have to show your work. Is 38 7/10 plus 2 3/10 equal to 41? So your decimal is going to drop down. 7 plus 3 is 10. 1 plus 8 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. And 1 plus 3 is 4. So 41 equals 41, check. 4 lines for every equation. Line 1, inverse operation, box your solution, substitute, and check. What number minus 13 2/10 equals 28 8/10? So draw your mirror. The opposite or the inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 13 2/10 to both sides. Show me your cancellation. So G equals, I'm going to slide over here to do my math. Anytime I have decimals, I have to show my work. Out to the side. So I think that's 42. So G equals 42. Next line, substitute. Rewrite this equation, but we're not going to say G. We're going to use the solution for G. Is 42 minus 13 2/10 equal to 28 8/10? Since I'm subtracting a decimal, I have to show my work out to the side. So over here, I'm showing my math. Is 42 minus 13 2/10 equal to 28 8/10? When you subtract decimals, you have to line them up. The decimal is going to drop straight down. You're going to borrow from the 2. 10 minus 2 is 8. Borrow from your 4. 11 minus 3 is 8. And 3 minus 1 is 2. Yes, so 42 minus 13 2/10 is 28 8/10, and 28 8/10 equals 28 8/10. Check. Every equation has 4 lines. Inverse operation, box your solution, substitute, and check. 1 2/10 is equal to m minus 2 5/10. Now remember, from the first day of notes, I said that I always like to have my variable on the left. So what we are allowed to do is take all of this and flip it over here, and take 1 2/10 and flip it to the right. Those two things mean the same thing. So now I'm ready to solve. The inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So to get rid of negative 2 5/10, I have to add 2 5/10. Negative 2 5/10 plus 2 5/10 is 0, so that cancels. So m equals 3 7/10, and you put a box around your answer. Now we're going to do substitution. I'm going to rewrite my equation, but instead of m minus, I'm going to use my solution. Is 3 7/10 minus 2 5/10 equal to 1 2/10? So my rule is, if you have a 3-digit number, a decimal, or a fraction, you have to show your work out to the side. So I have to show this math out to the side. I know for subtraction of decimals, I have to line them up. 3 7/10 minus 2 5/10. Drop that decimal straight down. 7 minus 5, 3 minus 2. So not m. So 3 7/10 minus 2 5/10 is 1 2/10 equals 1 2/10. Check. So I did my inverse operation, I boxed my solution, I substituted, and I checked. All right, so now that we've done some problems together, you are going to try numbers 6 and 7 on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, try those two, restart the video, and you can watch and see how you did. Okay, so the first thing that you should have done is to draw your mirror. The opposite or the inverse of adding is subtracting. So to get rid of a positive 12 and 6/10, we're going to subtract 12 and 6/10. So 12 and 6/10 minus 12 and 6/10 is 0, so that's going to cancel. All you have is n. If you have decimals, you have to show your work out to the side. So first, since I'm subtracting, I'm going to line them up. I'm going to borrow 12 minus 6. I'm going to borrow again 10 minus 2 and 3 minus 1. Okay, so n equals 28 and 6/10. Put a box around your answer. So we've done inverse operation. We boxed our solution. Line number 3 is substitution. Substitution is when you rewrite the original equation, but instead of n, you're going to use your solution. So is 28 and 6/10 plus 12 and 6/10 equal to 41 and 2/10? So I'm going to show that math over here out to the side. Is 28 and 6/10 plus 12 and 6/10 equal to 41 and 2/10? So your decimal comes straight down. 6 and 6 is 12. 8 and 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So now I can say 41 and 2/10 equals 41 and 2/10, check. And do I have 4 lines to solving? Yes. Number 7, what number minus 5/10 equals 5 and 72/100? First step, draw your mirror to make sure you're doing the same operations on both sides of your equal sign. So the inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So we have to add 5/10 to both sides. Negative 5/10 plus 5/10 cancels on the left. So over here, I'm going to line up my decimals. I have 5 and 72/100 plus 5/10, which I'm calling 50/100. So 2, 2, 1, and 6. So P equals 6 and 22/100. Put a box around your answer. Next line is substitution. We want to check and make sure we didn't make a mistake with our math, that everything works out. So substitute for P is 6 and 22/100 minus 0 and 5/10 equal to 5 and 72/100. If you have a decimal, you have to show your math out to the side. So over here is where you have to come show me your math. So 6 and 22/100 minus 0 and 5/10. I'm going to add a 0 placeholder. So 2 minus 0. Borrow from the 6. 12 minus 5. Decimal comes down, and 5. So now I can say that 5 and 72/100 equals 5 and 72/100. Check. I did my inverse operation. I boxed my solution. I substituted, and I checked. I did all 4 lines of solving. All right, so what about this? I realize these might look a little scary, but they're not. You guys know exactly how to do all of this math, so just stay with me. First step, draw your mirror. Second step, notice right away that you're going to have to do minus 2/3 on the left and minus 2/3 on the right. Now I notice that if I'm subtracting fractions, I have to have a common denominator. So I'm going to erase this. The very first thing you have to do when you have fractions with addition or subtraction in an equation is you're going to rewrite the entire equation first using a common denominator. So remember, to find that least common denominator, we can make a division ladder. Put the denominators inside. 3 and 10 do not have any common factors other than 1. So we're going to multiply 3 times 10. So that means our least common denominator is 30. So for 3, I'm going to do 3 times 10 and 2 times 10. 10 times 3 is 30, and 9 times 3 is 27. So my new equation will say x plus 20/30 equals 27/30. What number plus 20/30 equals 27/30? Well, the opposite of 20/30 is negative 20/30. So I have to subtract the same fraction from both sides. Show your cancellation. 27 minus 20 is 7. So my solution for x is 7/30. Next step, substitute. We're going to rewrite this equation, substituting for our variable. So I think x equals 7/30. So is 7/30 plus 20/30 equal to 27/30? 27/30 equals 27/30. Check. All right, that was a lot of work, but we did it. We showed the inverse operation. We boxed our solution. We substituted for the variable, and we checked. Number 9. So I immediately see that I have fractions with different denominators, and I know I'm going to have to add. How do I know I have to add? Because I see I see a minus sign, and I know the opposite of subtracting is adding. So I'm going to take my two denominators, I'm going to put them inside a division ladder, and I'm going to divide by 2. And then I'm going to highlight my L. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. So that tells me that the common denominator for this problem is going to be 12. Well, if it's going to be 12, then to get from 4 to 12, I'm going to multiply by 3. And over here, to get from 6 to 12, I need to multiply by 2. All right, so my new equation is what number minus 3/12 equals 10/12? So now I have to do the inverse operation. I have to get rid of negative 3/12 by adding 3/12 to the left and adding 3/12 to the right. Negative 3/12 plus 3/12 cancels. Over here on the right side, 10/12 plus 3/12. Add your numerators. 10 plus 3 is 13. Now, notice that this is an improper fraction. That is okay. I know that you've always heard me say that you have to simplify that to a mixed number, not when you're solving equations, because in order to do the math, it's going to be much simpler to do the math if we leave it improper just for a moment. So the next step is substitution. So now I'm going to take this equation, I'm going to substitute for x. I think x equals 13/12. So is 13/12 minus 3/12 equal to 10/12? Well, I know that 13 minus 3 is 10. So 10/12 equals 10/12. Check. Did I do all of my steps? I showed my inverse operation. I boxed my solution. I substituted for my variable, and I did my check. All right. What number minus 3/5 equals 5/8? So again, I notice a subtraction equation, so now I'm going to have to add, and I see two different denominators. So first step, rewrite using a common denominator. Make a division ladder. There's nothing that you can divide 5 and 8 by other than 1. You multiply those two factors, and the least common denominator is 40. So I'm going to rewrite this, using 40 as my common denominator. So for 5, I'm going to have to do 5 times 8 and 3 times 8. For 8, I'm going to do 8 times 5 and 5 times 5. All right, so what number minus 24/40 equals 25/40? Draw your mirror. We have to get the x all by itself. So we're going to do the inverse of subtraction, which is addition. If I add 24/40 to the left, I have to add 24/40 to the right. Show me your cancellation. Negative 24/40 plus 24/40 is 0, so that cancels. On the right side, add your numerators. So I'm looking at 25 and 24. 25 plus 24 is 49. So I think x equals 49/40. So now I'm going to substitute. Remember, we rewrote the equation as x minus 24/40 equals 25/40. So I'm going to rewrite that, but instead of saying x minus, I'm going to use my solution. Is 49/40 minus 24/40 equal to 25/40? Yes, 49 minus 24 is 25. So 25/40 equals 25/40. Check. How many lines to solve? 4. Inverse operation. Box your solution. Substitute for your variable, and check. All right, there's 2 at the bottom, so I'm going to have you guys try those. Go ahead and pause the video. Remember your first step, find a common denominator for 5 and 12. Rewrite your equation. Find a common denominator for 6 and 9. Make your division ladder and rewrite using a common denominator. So go ahead and pause the video and come back when you're finished to see how you did on these 2. All right, so for my division ladder, I cannot divide 5 and 12, so I'm going to multiply 5 times 12, which is 60. So I'm going to rewrite using 60 as my common denominator. So I'm going to do 5 times 12 and 2 times 12. I'm going to do 12 times 5 and 7 times 5. I'm going to draw my mirror. The opposite of positive 24/60 is negative 24/60. (24/60) minus 24/60 cancels. So over here on the left, I'm looking at this problem, and right now I'm focused on my numerators, 35 minus 24. 35 minus 24 is 11, So x equals 11/60. Next step, substitution. We're going to rewrite this equation using our solution for x. So is 11/60 plus 24/60 equal to 35/60? Yes, 11 plus 24 is 35. 35/60 equals 35/60. Check. And We showed our inverse operation. We boxed our solution. We substituted for our variable, and we checked. All right, last one. So, oops, already had a division ladder. So for 6 and 9, we're going to divide by 3. Highlight your L. Multiply. 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 times 3 is 18. So we're going to rewrite this equation using 18 as our denominator. So x minus, I have to change both of those denominators to 18. So 9 times 2 is 18, and 2 times 2 is 4. 6 times 3 is 18, and 5 times 3 is 15. So what number minus 4/18 equals 15/18? Well, the opposite of negative 4/18 is positive 4/18. Negative 4/18 plus 4/18 cancels. Now I'm looking at my numerators, 15 plus 4. So 15/18 plus 4/18 is 19/18. Now remember, you are allowed to leave that improper if you're using it to solve an equation. So now I'm going to look at this equation, and I'm going to substitute for x. Is 19/18 minus 4/18 equal to 15/18? 19 minus 4 is 15. 15/18 equals 15/18. Check. We showed our inverse operation. We boxed our solution. We substituted, and we checked. Okay, that was a long one.